ban that we saw at the end of January, and they're going to challenge it in the courts the same way they did that first ban. Obviously, the Trump administration took into account some of those legal challenges. They crafted this order somewhat more narrowly. They didn't talk about giving preference, say, to religious minorities when they began reprocessing refugees. They took Iraq off the list, where there was a lot of objection from, say, the Defense Department about not allowing Iraqi translators who had been granted visas to come into the country and settle here. And so there it is circumscribed, but there are still going to be legal challenges primarily on whether this is in effect a Muslim ban because of the countries covered and are going to violate freedom of religion here in the U.S.
And the politics of it and the kind of political scenery and showcasing today, Anthony. So no great thing with the president in the Oval Office. We saw the three senior figures there in that news conference. What do you make of that and the way this has been presented in contrast to the first one?
I think it's fascinating. It seems like the lawyers have taken over the process rather than the political operatives like Steve Bannon and Stephen Miller, who were reportedly the people spearheading that first rather broad, vague ban that was issued within the first week. I think Trump administration officials feel like they still have to do something, that if they didn't do anything and just let the courts bog down that first order indefinitely, it would be perceived as a campaign promise that was not fulfilled. But the fact that they're doing it on a much quieter level here, that Donald Trump didn't even do a public signing, that he put his administration officials to answer questions that happen on Monday and not at the end of the day on a Friday, they're being much more careful, but they want to have at least something that they can claim as an accomplishment on the immigration issue.
And given how busy the president's been on social media over the past few weeks, Anthony, anything around this again in terms of his activity and what he's saying, is he being unusually quiet?
After Saturday morning's outburst on Barack Obama and wiretapping, he has been relatively quiet, just a few tweets on Sunday morning. But yes, he's backed down a lot. So I think he may let this order speak for itself. He was very active in defending that first order, talking about how important it was that it happened immediately right away, because otherwise people would sneak into the country. Now this one has a 10-day delay, so it's a difference. I don't think he wants people, putting up his new tweets defending it versus his old tweets and nitpicking the differences. We'll see if that lasts, however. If there's a fair amount of blowback and criticism, I wouldn't be surprised if he takes to Twitter and is a little more aggressive.
Just to pick up on one thing again, Anthony, if I may, because lots of people obviously still interested in the events of the weekend and the way that the Trump attack on Barack Obama played out. How do you assess that today, and what's been the kind of considered view on that a few days later?
Well, there's still a lot of concern, particularly in Congress, about it. Obviously, his tweets changed the dynamic of the debate in this country and the topics of conversation to much more about these unfounded, at least at the moment, allegations about the previous administration. I know Republicans in Congress had planned on this being a week where they would focus on health care reform and Obamacare repeal. Now, on Monday morning, they're having to defend their president or explain their president or back away from their president in many cases. It's changing the message, it's undermining the message. So I think that the travel order is going to change the subject a little bit, but I don't think it's going to wholly change the conversation away from Donald Trump's Saturday morning tweets.
All right, Anthony, good to talk to you again. Thanks very much for the latest there in Washington, Anthony Zerbe.